start with the good news.
Okay. A few things there that I included this time, and I had a couple things come in late too that I'll put on next meeting, but we had the UNICEF Club Beggars Night. They raised $1,087.35 for women and children in crisis. I had the Simpson baseball team, caught them when they were at Whittier reading to the preschoolers. Got a nice picture of them there. Some Laura Ingalls Wilder students who went to Vintage Hills and read with residents there. And then a picture of some of the Emerson Associates at lunch, where the teachers provided lunch for the associates during American Education Week. So that's what I had in there, this report.
All right. We'll move on to the consent agenda.
So I just had a question. Is now the deadline for the bonus, because the revised listing here, deadline's passed for that $1,500?
Yeah, the second deadline is January 15th for 1,000.
Okay.
Yep.
And how many do we have to date?
The last number I heard, and I'm not aware of any after this, was 21 teachers and 9 support staff. Has that number changed, Jonathan?
No, I don't think it has changed. Now they have till the 15th for the next deadline, and then the 31st is the final.
But you would think a lot of them would have come in, not that they can't keep doing it.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
There is one revision under the personnel recommendations. Removed a coaching position because he hadn't finished his endorsement yet, but we can wait till after Christmas season for that.
Who was that, Rob?
It was an 8th grade basketball position.
Is that the new one? Is this the new
Yeah,
one?
Alex Alberts, yeah. You have the revised one. It says revised to the top at your place there. So
Oh, so when you do it, we're just gonna bring it back?
we'll
I mean,
bring him back once he's licensed. Yep.
I'll move approval of consent agenda.
A second?
All right, approval of the consent agenda by Ken, seconded by Carolyn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. And it's now time for delegations that we have currently signed up. Is it Carrie?
Hello, I am Carrie Gabriel. As an associate of Indianola High School, I feel so disrespected by this administration. Not only do I feel they do not take our students' ability to learn seriously, but they do not give us the proper tools to help our students in need. We fought so long to have computers so we can work beside the students we are responsible for during their class. But when we were given the computers, it turned out they were Chromebooks. Granted, they are very nice and very much appreciated. The problem we have is the lack of care we were given when we received these. The Chromebooks had none of the programs, and we cannot print off of them. We just figured things out on our own. Nobody there to teach us. We fought for an extra couple weeks just to receive access on our school. We finally were approved, but we have access like a student. This is great, don't get me wrong. For the average associate, it's awesome. But as a program associate whose job is to help keep their main teacher informed of their student and how they are doing in classes, to me, program associates should have access to see at least the students have missing assignments. There are times when the teacher gets called out to deal with another one of their students, and the program associate should be able to cover that teacher in those times. It will also help to keep the students on task if they know that we know what they have to work on. From my standpoint, I have to go on the words of the student, that they have their work done. Then the next time I see their teachers, they ask me why I did not work with the student on their late assignments. It makes me feel like I'm not doing my job correctly. Maybe it's the lack of trust from the administration for the associates, or it's just no communications on our needs. But I'm standing here before you to hope to convey both of them. I guess the biggest questions I have are, why would the administration okay for the associates to have computers, but not let them use the same computers as the teachers and the students? What they use is MacBooks, which is through the Apple company. Like most Apple products, they are stingy with what they share with other companies. So giving the associates Chromebooks, which is one of Apple's main competitors, they work with Google, and Google platforms work with Microsoft, and the Apple company uses their own platforms. Hence why they're more expensive. So what I'm getting at is the teachers, when making PowerPoints and other documents, they use Keynote, which is an Apple RAM program. The Chromebooks will not let us open these documents, so we're still in the dark. I am the type of associate that does the work with the students, so I make sure that they have their work done. And I also know that I have a copy if they happen to misplace theirs. With these Chromebooks, the teachers have to reformat their work to make them into PDF files, so we associates can see these documents to help the students. Personally, I thought associates were hired to help the teachers with certain students, and to make things work easier for them, not to give them more steps to make sure we have what we need. Another question I have is, why did the administration only approve 3 Chromebooks for high school? It is inconvenient since there are 6 associates, which means 6 different classes at a time with different students all day. We associates are not just sitting around waiting to be tagged in by our coworkers to be given the opportunity to use the computers in the class. In my opinion, I feel the administration gave us these Chromebooks as a pacifier to get us to stop complaining and to have us stop asking for the materials we need. I have worked here going on 5 years, and I feel very underappreciated. I feel you think we're all replaceable and that we're not taken seriously as employees. If you are looking to find people to stay in the position of an associate, you need to show us trust and offer some incentives. I would love the opportunity to work full-time. I have fallen in love with this job, the kids, they make it worth it. But the lack of materials has me second guessing that I need to move on from here. Have you ever felt helpless in your job? Well, I do every time a student asks me for help. The reason being is because I have to disrupt class to answer a student's question. This usually happens when it is quiet. Also, I have to be sitting right next to the student, breathing in their air. And I have to read, if I have to read or point something out to them on their computer. Not only does this stop students from asking for help from me, but it looks weird looking at it from a different point of view. Why should our students be subjected to bullying because they do not learn like most of the kids in the classroom? All we are asking is being treated as a valued and respected employee to have the materials that is needed to help do our jobs to the best of our ability. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Next up, we have Danya.
Again, I am up here. My name is Dottie Hayes, and I have been an associate for over 20+ years. And I'm going to hand out some packets. Since we have new board members, I thought I would hand out packets that I handed out before. So they could look at them and see what I was talking about with our security stuff. Since last September, I have been bringing up concerns about our needs for computers. I would like to thank you all for the Chromebooks. They use 5 for the school district, so we can do our Medicaid billing. I'm sure that the other associates in the other schools, it has helped them a great deal. I have not talked to any of the other associates, but I'm sure it is a big plus for all of us. These Chromebooks work really well for that purpose, but I would like to speak to you about the correct tools that are necessary for the high school associates, which this is where I started from and was wanting help with this for the high school associates. being hard drive driven and Chromebooks dependent on the cloud service. Number two, Chromebooks do not have the capability for us to do the printing from them and if the need arises. Three, we do not have access to be able to log in and out of our the Chromebooks for our lunches, because when we are in a class, we get released from lunch exactly at the same time as students do. If we have to walk to another area, it makes us late for coming back to class with the student. So the teachers kind of look down on that because we're interrupting their teaching time. Four, we are to make the teachers' jobs easier, not harder, by having to change the format so that we can have the correct access to help our students. And we had a problem today that we couldn't get the class page to come up when it should, when the associate had hooked into everything and everything. We sent an email and I talked to Mitch about it, and he was going to try to resolve that. And I have not heard back, so. But these are just a few issues with the Chromebooks versus MacBooks that makes everyone's job a little tougher. When I have gone to the IT department to ask Mitch if he would be helpful, and he has been very, very helpful, I have noticed 15 to 20 MacBooks sitting on a shelf. Alas, I am not sure if these computers are just extras for new students that are coming in, or if they're all in need of repair. In this packet I have handed you, you will find the information I have brought to the board's attention since September. I know that a lot of the board members are new, so this is just to reiterate what we need. In this packet, you will find assignments from Power Schools and correspondence for myself and the administration about the Chromebooks and the issues we have been dealing with. I would like to ask you to please look through this carefully and see for yourselves what we are asking for. I have been told that only certified staff could have access to the students' grades and assignments. As I talked with colleagues, I have found out a few of them have access and they are not certified. For example, our resource officer, which was just given a MacBook, and he has access to the different things. But since I am a program associate, I knew some of the Power School websites, and I was asked to show him around so he could find things better. I really felt that was a slap in the face to me. I know you have just arrived into your new roles as school board members, and that this can be a lot to process. So please take your time and processing all of this, and if you need to discuss it, everything you have heard tonight, if you have any questions, you can please contact me, or maybe the administrators would have a better handle on things, or maybe we could all meet and figure out a solution to this ongoing thing that I've been asking for. And I thank you for your time.
Before you sit down, Vanya, can you go over those 4 points again so we can list those out, please?
Oh, sure. The Chromebooks are not compatible with a lot of the MacBooks due to the MacBook being hard drive driven and Chromebooks dependent on the cloud services. 2, Chromebooks do not have the capability for us to print from them if the need arises. We do not have access to be able to log in and out for our lunches, causing us to be clocked in late. We are to make the teachers' jobs easier, not harder, by having them change the format so we can have a correct access. We're trying to put more on taking the less away from the teachers. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
She had a question.
Yeah.
Do I ask you to get permission to ask Donna a question?
Delegation,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, is there anyone else that didn't, I know a few of you came in late. Anybody else that's like, can you state your name, please?
My name is Mary Anderson. I have spoke to the board before, so those of you that are new, welcome, and I'm glad to see some new faces. I'm gonna give a very general and nondescript background as to why I'm talking to you today, just for privacy reasons, but in January of last year, there was an assault that happened at the school and impacting one of my children. And we have been dealing with the fallout from that since then. The reason why this is pertinent for you to learn about today is because it involves Google Hangout. The assault initially had nothing to do with Google Hangout, but there were some safety violations that occurred on Google Hangout. There was a no contact order put in place between the two students. This was violated and was found by myself and my husband as parents, not by the school. There have been multiple children sending very sexually explicit or suggestive photographs through Google Hangout that sits on the school's cloud. We had contacted Ray Kofi and they had worked on getting those removed, the ones that we knew of. So, in terms of the entire school population, I have no idea. I also recently found out through Google Hangouts, they have the opportunity to do Google video chatting, which is not recorded and not monitored by the school. So essentially, they can do whatever they want on these videos. We had an incident recently, within the last several weeks, where a student had threatened to kill himself over the video chat and placed a gun to his head. We found out shortly after that, after the police were involved, that it was not a real gun. It was an air gun, but it looked like a handgun. And there were some threats made to other students involved with this. And I think it just is a great representation as to why we should not have Google Hangouts available. There is frequent talks of suicide on these Google Hangout chats. As far as I can see, at least with my daughter's Google Hangout account, there's no teacher interaction. It's not being used for school purposes. There's multiple conversations going on during the school day that deal with who's dating who and who's doing what. I recently found out my 4th grader has Google Hangouts also and is using it during the school day when they go to computer class. As a parent, the only way that you can stop that is to get a hold of the school and ask them to shut that individual account down. As far as I'm concerned, I don't see any relevant reason any of those schools needs to have Google Hangout. A frequent argument is that teachers are using this. I have not seen that at all. I think teachers can send emails just as easily as they can Google Hangouts. And also on Google Hangouts, you would have to either create an entire group or send out individual messages to each student. So in terms of ease, to me it makes more sense that you would want to group an email versus send out a Google Hangout. I know multiple parents that had no idea their kids had access to Google Hangouts. It's something that the kids are automatically given as soon as they get a Google Gmail account. As a parent, the only way that you can monitor that is to log into their accounts, which means you also have to have their passwords. Well, thankfully my children have shared their second lives that a lot of parents don't even know about at this point. I have restricted access to, for my children, for all social media things, and so for me to find out that my daughter had this Google Hangout account and was accessing and talking about things that I normally would not have allowed her, and to find out the school had given it to them is a huge issue. I feel like the computers were given to kids 6th through 8th grade, the 6th and 7th graders very quickly without full recognition of what that would mean as far as implementation and what the kids needed before those Google Chromebooks were rolled out. I also know that there are multiple school districts in the area that have shut down Google Hangouts and they are not used. I'm not saying that every school, elementary, middle, and high school should have it shut down, but I don't feel there's any reason our elementary students should have access to Google Hangouts. And I don't think it's productive at all in the middle school, given their age and capabilities as far as processing what these photographs and conversations actually mean, especially when we're talking about the video chats. We are giving our kids open access to video chatting without parental consent or knowledge. Yes, we sign off on a piece of paper that allows our children to get access to these computers, but most parents don't understand exactly what they're getting access to. I have seen more harm done than I can express in an open mic situation with my own family involving the electronic communication capabilities that these kids have. And in fact, we're still dealing with multiple fallouts from the incidents that happened back in January for us. I appreciate, Indianola trying to move our students forward in an era where everything is electronic, but I think we still need to focus on teaching our children how to communicate effectively and how to have true internet safety before we give them an access to everything. I appreciate your time, and thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for speaking this evening. We appreciate your comments during this time.
We do have a related discussion item later
We
too
do.
on this one. So,
All right. Okay, moving on to some action items here for the district level. First, high school first semester class enrollments.
Mr. Siebersma is here for questions. This is his first time going through this too. But we, provide to the board, just to give you an idea too of what we have for curriculum, the breadth of our curriculum, students enrolled in what classes, and, it's an informational item, but we have also talked about trying to do it earlier in second semester, so if the board had suggestions or questions that would spark any changes, then we could potentially still do that. But I know Mr. Siebersma is here to speak to any questions you might have about this.
I just had one, I can't remember initials and acronyms. EWH, would that be European World History?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is it European or early?
How's Casey Brown doing with those two big classes she has? I think those are the largest classes I've seen, 33 and 32, Ag Business and Animal Science. I know that's where they do the dissecting. Is that working out okay?
I've not actually spoken to her about it. She's not brought it to my attention that's a problem. I know we worked early to once the numbers were finalized, those numbers weren't much higher, but they were cut down due to just scheduling conflicts. And I think when we get around at that 30, that's a manageable number. We don't want to see it go much higher than that. Those would be full classes.
I mean, I see most of them average 25, 26,
Yeah.
then some are smaller. There's Bell. Is that is that advanced class? Did I read that? Am I reading that right? That has the 8 in it, AP Calc?
Yeah, and,
That's the,
it is. And the one thing with that, I think typically we would want to get 10 students in a class. That's a class where we have conflicts with students taking up a little mathematics in the academy. So we need to provide a section in the AM and a section in the PM to accommodate their needs. I think that happens in a few different places when you look at the schedule where there's no low numbers. It can come back to
'Cause they have to-
just that need to expand our offerings so that some of our more advanced students have access to all of our upper level courses.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things I was just curious about with Project Lead the Way, do we kind of, this is maybe more curriculum, but do we flip around the types of offerings we have on that? Because I know there's sometimes like, we experiment, some kids want to do this, some kind of kids want to do that, or have we kind of gotten set into a routine of what we know is popular?
I'm not aware of any that are changing at this point.
Yeah.
Two were added this year.
Yeah, I see that.
Carolyn, we've had some changes in the past to the licensure. We've had
Right.
a lot of turnover with those
Right.
particular teachers, and they have to have a very particular set of trainings.
Okay.
So now that we've been able to pin down who that teacher is, I think we're gonna have greater continuity in what's being offered. And we've made a conscious effort to move towards some of the computer science, just, for career focus and broad appeal to students.
Right, it does look like there's broad
So,
appeal, that's what I was
yeah.
wondering. Good. This is just for information, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
What's student services? I should know this.
It's part of our at-risk program.
yeah,
It's
that's
not,
what I thought.
it's not epic, but it is funded through at-risk dollars, and it's really just success help, assistance,
Right.
sort of is it fair to say structured study halls that,
Yeah. It's more structured so that the students that are placed in there are placed there because they're at risk in an area. So then that teacher can help to assist and make sure
Okay,
that they're.
get their homework stuff done, okay. That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure.
Want to keep looking, or?
I'm good.
Everybody's ready? All right.
Fine.
We'll move on to 2019-2020 concurrent classes.
this is an action item. This is something that either Mr. Siebersma or Mrs. Duran might want to speak to too, but, why, maybe the why do you have a list of approved concurrent classes? How we've arrived at this list?
Well, these are classes that we were able to teach in-house. So, again, kind of based on somewhat of our teacher certifications, helps to determine these courses that we can offer. It's fairly common courses, I think, that would transfer into a lot of colleges. I think that goes into the decision-making on what we would offer as well. I say we, in my past experience, we do this as a district in order to give our students a step up going into the post-secondary realm of things and try to get them the best opportunities we can so that they can get a jump start on their post-secondary education.
I like seeing the welding. I think that's becoming more and more, a big thing, that kids don't wanna go to college and get $60,000 in debt. They wanna go to welding, or they go into, I know a senior that, he talked to me the other day, and he's going right into, electrician apprenticeship. Cause he just doesn't wanna get $60,000 in debt. And so I thought that, I like that. I like that's what we need to kinda look to, those kids that don't wanna go and need to have some kind of trade. So I'm glad to see that.
Mr. Siebersma just went to a meeting at Southridge with DMAC, and I don't know our exact number this year. Is it 70 kids or so that we have going up there?
Is that, and that's what we paid, that was what we paid for, John, on that DMAC.
That's the first semester.
That's the first semester.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah,
The kids are,
learning those trades is an excellent opportunity, because for some of those kids, they may not go to college, but if they get exposed to those trades areas, they may not need to go to college, because they
Yeah.
have the training they need to get started. with an employer
Yep.
and start a really good life.
Yeah,
So
I
these
agree.
classes are held on the DMAC camp.
There's a mix. We do have, if you have qualified staff, and I think it used to be master's degree in 12 hours, the content area is 18 now? 18. So if we have a staff member with a master's degree in that area plus 18 graduate hours, they can teach the college credit course, within our building, which is great because then you don't have the travel time. And then there are other courses that juniors and seniors typically will spend half their day at the academy, and when they graduate, then they'll have a full year of college in. They'll lots of times have a certificate or be well on the way to it. So a combination, I think. I think some of these listed are up at Southridge and some are in-house, is that right?
Yeah, I was looking at
Yeah.
the list of our.
Rule of thumb is the DMAC is first as you look at.
Oh, yeah,
listing,
good
So
point.
that's
And that's at DMAC.
at DMAC.
Okay.
But there may be a couple that got kind of, that may not be that way. We've tried to keep that separate so that DMAC taught at DMAC is first, and then the ones that are taught here, DMAC shows up as last, but it's both DMAC credit.
Do we have quite a few teachers then, Ron, that do have that master's and the 18 hours then? Or the,
I couldn't tell you the number. I mean, I could get that information.
I mean, we must have quite a few. I mean,
I mean, they're
just look,
covering these other classes.
just looking
so-
at these classes, it looks like,
Well, at some point, there was definitely a conscious decision because some of the tech stuff keeps getting more sophisticated, and so just having a shop class, you need a lot of other things, and so, like I said, I've been around a while, but I mean, we definitely talked about it, and their experience is very much different, going somewhere like DMAC, where they've got different things that they can use when they're learning to do things with welding or with, I don't know.
So
So it was definitely a decision that was a better experience than trying to get someone in-house.
So I taught in the dual accreditation DMAC when I was here, I think in 2007 and 8. Are we still doing a CNA course here, or are those just health occupation classes?
There's definitely a bunch of
'Cause we
DMAC
used
CNA stuff, isn't there?
Is that second
but
semester maybe,
that-
or are we still doing the classes for CNA?
Is that what
I believe
House
that's
1
through-
is?
Are those only through Mercy? Or is that?
No, that's specific, that's much more specific. I think it's through DMAC.
I think it's part of health occupation strand through DMAC.
Yeah, because it's the CN, that's when they had to do the clinicals, right?
Yeah, and then
They're currently doing those.
Okay, cause I know that we had like an emergency medical care class and a health occupations class. And so I wanted to make sure we hadn't gotten rid of the CNA class, or maybe it's just a different.
I think it's a certification they earn in the course of their work within that health occupations.
Okay.
It's not its own strand, but
We have a motion to approve the class listing as
Move
recommended.
to approve the 2019-20 concurrent class listing.
Second.
Seconded by Lori. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 7-0, sorry. Next is, this is just a discussion item about ad hoc committees. I know a lot of us had spoken about that before we had become elected, and I know that also some of the current board members had, or the board members that are still on, had spoken about that. So, a couple different areas, safety and mental health, and then the second one, communications or relations in the areas of teachers, staff, parents, and community. And so, I think it's more just a discussion item right now, just to see, exploring those ideas and of an ad hoc committee where we could utilize members from the public, the existing community, professionals in these areas that could help us as a board understand the needs for our district in this area and making sure we have things in the right area. And of course, those, when it's ad hoc, it's temporary, so it could be as long as the board feels the need appropriate. So I don't know, would we need to or draw up like guidelines and parameters that?
I think it always helps to know, especially if you're gonna ask, members of the community to participate so they understand their role and what exactly you're hoping to get from the experience. So I think that's probably a great suggestion, a great first step, for the board to know, exactly what you wanna get out of it so you can communicate that. Okay.
Rob, today Sue and I went to the bus barn, took donuts and cinnamon rolls, and we had a great talk, we met with all the bus drivers, and we met with the maintenance workers. I learned a lot about buses today, about their changing out, and I'm sure facilities probably knows this, but changing out the buses, and putting new seat belts in on the buses. And just their area, I mean, we saw the study when they did, and I don't remember what that study was or off the top of my head, but when they looked at all the different buildings
Yeah.
that needed.
Yeah, what DLR did for us in
Yeah,
our
there you go.
facilities, yeah.
And so we got a little, Jason, who works on the buses, took us through, and Dan, he was out inspecting, the vans and stuff, so they kinda took us a little tour, and so we got to see, you know, and they were packing up the old the back of the back seat of the bus seats, they take those out and then they put the new ones in with the seat belts, so they were, you know, had those all stacked up there, and I think he told us 2015 or newer, right? Am I right on, I think it's 2015 or newer, they are required to put the seatbelts in? Am I right on that, Art, would that be?
I thought it was every new purchase, John, do you know, is there a retrofitting requirement, or is it just, it's just new purchases?
Right now, it's not a retrofit, but we are doing.
We are retrofitting all of them.
Yeah, so,
We can.
so that was really interesting. Couple of things come up, you know, that we wanna bring up, but it was really nice to meet them, and they were like kinda shocked we were there, like, what are you doing? We're not spying, so we sat down and we were there probably till about 8:30, and we got there about 7:15 and had a really nice talk with all the bus drivers and maintenance guys, and just told them thank you for the job you do, getting our kids to and from school safely, and so it was really nice. It was nice to sit and talk to them and just.
And I think that would probably fall into that communications
Yeah.
committee, going around and just
We liked it.
introducing yourself and getting into the community and asking if there's any, you know, we'll always ask, you know, what are the great things about your job, and
Right.
they all love the kids.
They love the
They
kids.
make them laugh all the time, you know, and then just ask, you know, what are some improvements that you're currently doing? So he was like, we're on top of getting the seatbelts where they need to be. So I think that committee, as we continue to go into the different spider legs of the district and the different groups.
I mean, we'd like to go now, just like hit a school, something different once a month, and go in and just bring cookies or whatever, and say thank you, and just, you know, how are you doing, meet them, you know,
Yeah, we should-
so.
I don't think anybody disagrees at all. I mean, I surely agree that this is a great thing. I don't know, from what you're talking about, we're looking for and I really don't know, a committee? Or just some type of coordinating influence? Because support staff, there's tons. But when we get into visiting, which I think we should, schools, you know, and chatting with teachers, I think we got about 270 teaching positions, just guessing at that at the moment. It's kind of, we want to be coordinated so we can spread ourselves, you know.
Yeah, well, I asked,
Not all of us going to the same
well, we can't,
teachers and neglecting others.
And
you
we
know,
can
or
only
something
have-
like that. But-
we can only have 3 board members present, right?
Yeah, that's
You
true.
can't have more than 3,
Yeah, you don't have a
so
quorum there.
I made sure that I didn't have more than 3 of us.
I kinda
And-
feel like we should take a step back as far as board members, figure out what we're trying to accomplish, figure out how it meets our vision, and then figure out what we're wanting, and then bring people in.
Right.
We kind of have some conversations
Right.
before,
Right.
you know,
I mean,
because
yeah.
communications is huge. At one point, we had someone hired that was doing some of it. Art does a good job
Sure.
throwing out some social media, but, you know, like, what do you mean by all of this?
Sure.
And then making sure we're kind of,
Definitely.
yeah, before we start bringing other people
Yeah.
into it.
Well, is that something that we would put?
I don't think it'd take much.
I
just
saw in
think
the
we need to-
agenda, we had like a work day,
Yeah.
right? The
That's gonna
board
be a
work.
Yeah, that'd be a great example of something
Okay.
you talk about at a work session.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, just to start thinking about that, thinking those lines, and thinking of maybe people in the community that you might like to have on that. I mean, I know we have several law enforcement professionals, retired and active, that would be huge helps in the area of safety. And we have mental health therapists, you know, in the Indianola community as well, that we can rely upon their expertise and go to. And I think that just helps build community.
Yeah.
I mean, Indianola, we have a problem right now of communication as a community. And we're trying to sell ourselves as a district, as a city, to other families and bring families in so we can grow our city in a good way. And so I think that communications area is vital, not just with teachers and staff, but also parents, community as well, making sure that we're we're thinking strategically and with a huge vision like Carolyn said there, so I agree. So yeah, just be starting to think about those things and thinking how we can best impact that, and maybe we can have that at a future work session.
Sure.
All right,
Perfect.
all right, moving on to.
I did wanna mention that I went to the, session on the legislative platform, I was the delegate for that, and, they list 4 priorities for next year. The second one is mental health. And they're trying for in-school and telehealth access for students, creation of categorical funding for students. This is working with the legislature to get. So it's probably the biggest of all, and everybody agrees that why it's second, I don't know. I think it should have been first, but it's not 12th, it's right there, so it's, I think it's big everywhere.
Sure.
And one of the things we learned from the convention as we get going, looks to me like West Des Moines is a place to check with. One of their board members was the one that made the presentation to us, so that there are resources, but at a meeting sometime.
Agreed. Actually, I think I know who that is, and she's a friend. Was it a woman?
What?
Was it a woman? From Valley. Liz.
Yeah, please pass the love. That's a group our high schools work with some.
Jennifer
Jennifer, Jenny.
Olte.
Okay, okay,
We've
well,
talked to her a lot.
okay.
All right, moving on to curriculum, school improvement, or is that an item there? Do we have anything?
I have retirement
Got
next.
the
Yeah, it looks like we didn't have a
Oh, did I
meeting there.
miss?
That's just a placeholder. We didn't have
Okay,
a meeting
all
there.
right.
Yep.
So we got the, certified staff, human resources,
Yep.
early retirement plan.
Yep. This is one, got brought up in public comment last meeting, and we talked about it a little bit within the context of the HR committee, and I shared, a few things that you heard that night as well. Individually, I have accommodated individual teachers seeking dock days for non-student days in recent years, since the calendar legislation that says we can't start before August 23rd. That makes it almost a certainty that we're going to have teacher work days in June. That's just a calendar thing. We would have had student attendance days in June too, had the board not added some minutes to the school day last year. So that precedent is there if you want to think of it that way. This year, the difference is that we do have the board-approved plan, and we included employees on 260-day contracts in that too, support staff. So that was where the original language that was passed came from, that said something like completing the scheduled days or the contract. Tonight, the recommendation, this is really up to the board. It's the board's plan. I mentioned to Mr. Keller earlier, usually there's a definite recommendation when it's an action, but I put in here either maintain the plan as previously approved or amend the plan to allow for early release. That's something the board can decide to do. And John, I put together kind of a sample of, what it might look like for a typical employee. I think you ran one that was toward the bottom of the scale, MA plus 30 or something. So,
Ron, can you refresh our Art? Okay, so she was asking to be done May 29th.
correct, that was her question.
And the last day of school is?
Last day for kids is May 29th. Currently, there are 4 professional development and/or teacher work days after May 29th.
Okay. So school's done the 29th of May, right?
Yeah, assuming kids don't have time to make up. We do have some additional hours
We have
over.
I say we have built-in hours for snow, right?
We do, or, if that's how the board wants to go, we have 1,080 as a minimum that we have to provide to students, 1,080 hours. We had, I believe, 40.3 additional hours. I don't have that calendar in front of me. We have had the 1 2-hour late start. So currently we have 38.3 hours over the minimum. And then as we go through the winter, I always want to make sure that we're doing what the board wants us to do with the calendar, because it was a board-approved calendar to begin with. And there definitely are times the board just, forgives those snow days, so to speak, for kids, or it doesn't make them make them up. It's in the Iowa code that even that the seniors are allowed to not have to make up snow days, because you run into graduation and things at the end of the year. I don't know what kind of winter we're gonna have, if we only have a few snow days and we have those extra hours there and the board is comfortable, that's fine if you want the student's last day to stay May 29th.
So the savings, so if I'm reading that right, so the savings to the district, am I reading this right? Joan, it'd be 4,979
Yes.
if they don't work the last 4 days. They would go unpaid, right?
That's the district savings at the 4,979. So that's, the district would save their 4 days of salary in this example.
Plus the IFRS.
And the insurance.
Plus IFRS, right?
And plus the retirement package, because they didn't work, they're reducing them by just a small amount.
So is that got the retirement package in that, or am I not?
978.
Yeah. What
Okay,
about insurance?
okay.
And then the
So-
insurance, yeah.
If we would amend, which I actually have no problem with, our plan to allow for this type of thing, and we put in the words last scheduled student day instead of an actual date. Okay, the reason why I'm saying that is I'd like for us to get to something we can follow year after year after year. If we say last scheduled student day, then each year, that means if there's we gotta hold the kids 2 more days for, because of snow days or something, we don't forgive it, these people could still be done,
You're saying on the last day of school,
scheduled day of school.
last scheduled day of school.
So they would know something ahead of time. They can't go ahead, apply for IPERS and do everything else, and then we say, oh, you gotta stay 2 more days, because it snowed. Does that make sense, Art, or am I way off?
Yeah, so you're talking about when we approved the calendar, the originally scheduled student days.
The last
So the board would be fine with this contracted teacher. If we had student days in June with them being done, we'd get a sub or something, I guess, for
Yeah,
this.
I
Is that what
mean,
you're saying?
it wouldn't be many, if ever, but I don't know how else we can do it that they can plan.
But even at the cost of a sub, we're still saving
You're still,
a
yeah.
pretty substantial amount of money.
Yeah, to me, and really, to me, it's not, I'm not worried about the cost of getting a sub. That's not the issue for me. It's just if philosophically the board is okay with the teacher you contracted not, seeing, in the past, the line that, when I've done this, case by case as people have come in, we've used that as our litmus test, so to speak. Is it a student contact day or not? So this would be, potentially going beyond that. I mean, there is a student contact day there, but
Yeah, if it snows, which we can't control.
So,
And this also protects us, because this would take our support staff to that day also, to fulfill their thing.
yeah, that's.
That was one of the things that concerned me.
We would need to do that if you were making a change, and the language we just suggested here was other employee groups could request early release from scheduled work as well, using the same criterion of last student day. So,
Yeah.
I think you would want to do that. That was the original, really, because you're dealing with different groups of employees, that was the original reason that we had that, must finish the contract language in there anyway.
That sounds good.
And I think it was gonna save the district that much money, and they wanna take it unpaid.
Well-
If we go over snow days, then we get a sub. I mean,
I think at the end of the day, it's a win-win because the district's saving money and the employee is essentially benefiting how they want to benefit. And I think it also, goes a long way in building morale and showing that we're a district that really cares about our employees, even though they're ending their service with the district.
so being devil's advocate, we have 5 snow days we have to make up. So we're talking about the last week of school, their teacher's not there. Because what drives this, if I understand it right, is they wanna be cut off at the beginning of a month because the timing of the beginning of the month is important to them with starting another job or getting IPERS, right?
Right,
So they don't wanna shift it.
Yeah, that ending ending May 29th or the end of the month, not working in June, you're exactly right. It's with IPERS, which we have to be really careful of as a district too. We don't want to jeopardize anybody's
Yeah.
IPERS, but, bona fide retirement, that the clock could start on that earlier. If they worked into June, now that
Right.
month is gone, it's not gonna count toward their bona fide retirement. And not only that, but then in terms of getting the IPERS benefits, then it's gonna be a month later as well. So,
So the worst case scenario is we have lots, like we did one time, a lot of snow days where we had to do those crazy couple hours extra day and all that. That if we were to extend it, which I think we wouldn't need to, but that'd be the risk is that person wouldn't be there
as a
for the
board, you
last
would have,
week.
you would have to be okay with
Well,
not
but
having-
Yeah, but I'm just saying from a kid's standpoint, at the end of the school year, you're taking tests, you're doing all this, it's with a sub, and that'd be real extreme, but
Yeah, but I
that'd
would
be the
think
risk.
a lot of your finals are gonna be taken, we all been there with students the last 4 days of school, you don't do anything anyway. I mean, they'll be taking finals or whatever.
But when you start talking
I mean, I'm
about-
talking snow days, if there's,
To say get a sub is a bit of a misnomer,
Right,
because we already struggle under the
Right.
best of circumstances to
there's a risk,
get
I guess I'm just
subs.
pointing out, there's a risk to the students,
And what I was trying to
Kids,
point out
but-
though,
yeah.
as the weather gets nicer, it becomes increasingly difficult to get subs. So if we're setting up something where we could potentially be volunteering to say, okay, we're just gonna have to get an additional number of subs, I would just tell the board, we don't have enough subs now. So please factor that in. It's not just as easy as to say, we're gonna get subs.
but if I recall, we got rid of Wednesdays, right? We went to school all day Wednesday.
We did, yes, we stopped our early outs
Well, I'm pretty
last
sure
year.
we did, but
Which is something I don't really wanna make a habit of either. I mean, that's important collaboration time for teachers, but we did. The last, I believe it was
was
12
the
weeks
last,
maybe.
yeah, was it?
Do we have a number on how many employees are requesting this? I mean,
I don't know, the request came from one person. You heard our speaker last meeting say, I represent a lot more people. I don't know, and that's something we just would have to make, with any early retirement offering, if you make it available to one, you make it available to all. So we just would have to,
Probably depends on what their plans
Put it
are
out
after
there.
they retire.
yeah.
So I guess what I'm just saying is I think that's something to know and to consider. I'm not saying I'm against it, but then I also think it does enter into how we strategically think about snow days if for some reason that extreme situation comes up. Like if we thought we had to make up 5 days and we knew how many, maybe if we know ahead of time, I don't know if we are, how many teachers might be interested in this, we maybe would do something different with how to catch up on snow days.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, we increased the school day. The one year we had a lot of snow days because we stayed,
Yeah.
the kids all stayed 20, I was still teaching them, so
Yeah.
that's what we did. I
We
mean,
just
there's
might-
other ways you can solve this
Right.
problem. You don't have to say, we're gonna have to hire subs at the end of the year. There are
Right.
other ways you can solve the problem.
And we've done this in the past, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I've done it on
Yes.
an individual basis several times the last few years where, like Carolyn said, I mean, individual plans vary and there have been teachers that have been willing to take those days unpaid and we've allowed it, so.
I mean, it's,
It'd be kinda nice to know if we had 10 of them or one of them. Is there a way that we would know that, or is it just something that at the end of the year they just tell us? how
do you
many
know,
Well,
Ron,
we
do
want-
they
A lot of
come
years,
to
we're
you?
not gonna have this many
I
people
have a
retire.
sense we'd
Most
probably
years
have at
we're
least
not. I mean,
5.
I mean, have they spoke to you besides the one?
I've had people just mention it,
Just,
so I know that there are, I'll say half a dozen to have a very gross number. I would say there are probably 5 at least.
And they're all
that would be interested
teachers?
in doing it. Yes, ma'am.
teachers.
So it might be possible, if for some reason we have really bad winters and we start getting a lot of snow days, and we're starting to kinda stress on it, we can maybe reach out and try to see how many of those people are thinking about this.
Well, I
And
think,
maybe impact our,
yeah, I would
Solution?
hope they would
And tell you by now, I mean.
know, if they want to or not, and,
they may see this and go, maybe not. I mean, they're taking away some money depending on what they are doing.
oh, for sure,
next.
yeah, for sure.
And it may not be a huge issue this year because we do have an inordinate number of additional hours that we haven't had in years past. So
And-
this year,
Yeah.
it's probably not a huge deal, but years to come. And if you say we need to factor that in and start building in more snow days into the calendar, certainly do that.
so
Is
so
that
what
wrong?
you're saying is basically, if any year to do it, this would be the one, because it's been built into the schedule, and we're not gonna be dealing, hopefully, with this number of retirements at once.
I'll tell you the other thing to think about, and the board really needs to consider this, and this has been an issue, and it's one reason we kind of presented calendar alternatives last year, is the whole concept of contract days for teachers. You know, and we have hours built in where students may not have to make up the day, but but teachers on that snow day aren't fulfilling one of their contract days. So there's still, you know, right now we have 4 work and or PD days at the end of the year, you know, which is quite a bit. If we have a snow day and we don't require the kid to come back, technically if you're tracking contract days, now you'd have 5. Now you'd have 6. You know, if we have 3 snow days, then suddenly we have 7 teacher days at the end of the year instead of 4, the way that it's traditionally been done. So that's, you know, that's, to me, that's sort of a sticky thing in this whole.
I'm like Donnie though, there's always ways to make up hours.
So is there, do we have to have them on days? Can we not give them hours? Can we not change that?
Well, that's,
We actually can.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just to
contract
ensure this
time.
in the future.
There's kind of pros and cons for either way.
You have to clock it in and out.
I'm just asking a question right
Yeah.
now. I
No,
just
no,
didn't
you're-
know if it was legal.
Yeah, yes, it
It
is.
is.
When they went, when the legislature made this change, they said you can choose days or hours, and you can do that for kids or for teachers. And I think, this is not scientific, I think a majority of districts probably did what we did because the hours with the kids does give you some flexibility on some snow things. But days is so ingrained in the years of bargaining contracts and the per diem calculations and everything else, and the leave days, you know, there's so much that we've done with days with staff versus hours. That would be kind of a revolutionary change. Now, I'm up for anything, and there would be advantages to syncing the two up, but.
So that we don't.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right, so I mean, it could be a change.
Your questions are timely though, because we're starting to work on the development of the calendar. And all of these things impact the decision-making that goes into the calendar. So that's where, you know, as I know we're talking about this specific circumstance, but if it's gonna have implications moving forward, it would be great to know that, so we can direct people.
Ron, when you made, so like we added the extra 20 minutes to the school day, so what did that come out for days?
We have an additional 40 hours.
And that's just from the 20 minutes that we added.
I can't say that specifically because I think we had some time
We
built in
did.
before then,
We did.
and I don't recall how many, but
But some of that is the 20 minutes that we've,
as things stand right now, we have 40.3 hours surplus, and our typical instructional day, I think, is 6.7 hours.
I think we had an extra 8 or 8.3 hours last year, or no, we had 1,087.6 or something odd like that. So we had about 7.6 extra hours last year, and this year we had 40. So,
do you know what we used last year? I know we were close.
oh, we were over it. I mean, that's
Yeah,
why
but I mean,
we had 3 full snow days and several late starts and early outs. So, yeah, we used well over what we had built in, and that's why we went to the weeks of, taking away the
1 hour
PD
early out,
time
yeah.
and, yeah, so.
Do we have to change the language if we wanna do what Ken was
Yeah, I
talking
think-
about?
I like
Change
Ken.
it
Is
to-
it?
You can just amend it, can't you?
Yeah,
We just amended.
I
Yeah,
can do
you-
anything because I'm not in charge. Well, let's see what they say.
I make a motion, we amend it.
Yeah, I mean, you would change that,
The May 29th.
where I said currently May 29th, you would just say, we would allow staff to retire as of May 29th.
No, as of the last schedule.
Last day of school.
Oh, so
The
year
last
to
day of
year, I mean,
school.
this year it would be May
The last day
29th,
of
but
school, yeah, not necessarily May could be May
last originally
31st.
scheduled
And the
student
routes
day.
have to be
But it had to
done,
be originally
equipment turned
scheduled.
in.
I think that's pretty important.
I mean, that has to be done. I like the way I like that, the last workday, last scheduled workday.
Yeah, so I
Originally
think we would just say the last originally scheduled, or on the last originally scheduled student day would.
So do we have to make a motion on that, or
I
how's
just
that?
did. I moved.
We've already got one.
So wait,
Just, okay,
So we're-
go ahead, we can get a second and have
So-
more discussion if we need it.
I'll second it.
Are we just making a motion to amend it, or are we making a motion to actually
I'm
implement?
making a motion to amend it.
To amend it, okay. We have a
Last
second?
school day of the year.
Yeah.
We have a second.
Carolyn
Yes.
did.
Carolyn, okay, so,
So, just to put this out there, the computation that Jonna has here is based on no snow days. I mean, that's reality today. And then, that's a much bigger change to not track teacher contracts according to days. So, each snow day we have, that'd be a moving target. Right? Am I thinking of that the right way, Jonna?
But if we make them up before, I mean, if we add
Still by
15 minutes,
days. They're still by days, not by, because they're still not, we're not gonna go, we can't put them into overtime because we can't leave the kids here that long, so it'd be like minimal amounts that we would add typically. So
We had
it's
like
still by
10
days.
minutes to the day, that's what we did.
or we
10
took
or 20,
Wednesday
maybe
away.
it's 20. We did do it.
So why were you making that point? Just that the numbers would.
Just because, I mean, she gave an example with here, that shows the cost and the savings, but that could be more than 4 unpaid days for them.
Well, but if they know that, I mean, they know, hey,
Yeah, I mean, that's
You could-
precisely why I'm saying it.
Yeah, that would-
but I mean,
I don't wanna surprise anybody.
as long as when you and Ron talk to them, it could be 7 days if there's snow days, and it might change their mind, it might not change their mind, I mean, I
they
don't
have
know.
a decision to make, one versus the other.
Yeah, they just,
And
And
then
they
what,
can decide that.
and I haven't thought this through, and I don't particularly care, I guess, but, this written request, is there any kind of it's kind of tough to know maybe before you see what kind of winter you have, before they know if they want to elect this option, right?
when you
And I guess
get
if I were
to-
in this boat and I were a teacher, maybe it's worth it to me for 4 days, but if we do have 4 snow days, I'm like,
Right.
no way, I don't.
Right.
So how do you want us to communicate that to
Is there a
staff?
time frame you need it by, like, to know?
They probably need it more than we do, probably because they need to get to IPERS and
Okay.
calculate and get that information in. I would think that we would want it by April, I would think.
Hopefully snow days are done by then.
It should be known by
Yeah,
then.
hopefully we won't have it after that.
Although I'm old enough, I saw one.
Yeah.
So we're saying they could change their mind if they decided by April to go back and say, never mind, I'm gonna go ahead and work the full.
Or we just don't, require we don't require their written
Okay.
request until
Until-
April or whatever, but,
I think you have to have a deadline, don't you?
well, I think it'd help. I mean, we wouldn't want somebody coming in, May 26th and saying, I think I'll do
Right.
that.
No.
But I do think, the whole, who knows what winter's gonna do, in
It can be
Iowa,
crazy.
so it needs to be late enough.
So do we need to put a date on there then?
I don't think we have to, but I wanted to see if there's any opinion on it.
Well, I think that's a good idea.
Or do we need to put
April
wording
1st
in
is
about
probably-
Because we
a
can.
written request? Do we need to put wording in about a written request?
We can, it may be easy to say staff members will need to make written requests for this option by April 1st or whatever,
Okay.
That's reasonable.
What do you think,
That's
Johnny? You're the
reasonable.
one
I
that's
think
gotta do
that's
the work.
Well, I think that
Is that a
April
weekday?
1st would be a night, again, we could have snow days, but if we haven't had snow days and they think, I can do the Russian roulette and take one day,
Right.
more.
I think April
That's a
1st is a
Wednesday.
good, I think it's a good
Yeah.
idea.
And I just hope, because, and I want to make sure we're trying to think of everything tonight, because as a board too, I'm trying to think this from all different points of view. As a
Appreciate
board,
that.
I wouldn't think you'd want to keep coming back and trying to
No.
Right.
fine tune,
No.
Well, and I do kind of appreciate the fact, I wasn't as keen on like, I'll just do those other days a different way. I like the fact okay, you're just walking away, this.
Yeah, I'm not
Right.
super excited about trying to track and
That
collect a
doesn't
lot of.
seem, I like this approach
IPERS doesn't
better.
like that, just so you know.
Okay, I was gonna say, this seems more
And
clear
it's
cut.
really,
May not be exactly what they asked for or one of the options they threw out, but I like it.
In the past, what we have done is the last student day, like Art said, has been, whether it be May or June. So that was an easy cutoff. So that's how IPERS knows that our plan works. So this being a change would possibly we're in the midst of an IPERS audit right now, so we need to, talk with them to make sure that this is for sure okay. I think that it is if the board changes it, but in the past, it's always been the last student day, so, just so you're aware.
And this is not at least, this isn't a huge departure from that.
Not too much, you know,
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on the first point? Will we do another motion for by April 1st?
Do we need to amend that,
We need to
Jonathan?
amend
well, if that's,
I can amend that to April first, yeah.
That would be great.
I so moved it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Amend it to April.
I'll second that.
Teachers need to
So-
let people know by April first if they want it.
Staff needs.
Choose that option.
Motion made by Donna.
Well, it's staff, right? We're not just doing
Correct.
teachers, it'd be
Yep,
staff.
staff.
It's all
Yeah.
staff,
Yep.
all staff.
Seconded by Carolyn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I really appreciate the thoughtful consideration on that. I mean, this is something that obviously matters to people, and, you know, I think it's something we can manage and communicate, put that option out there, so.
All right, moving on to the technology section. Discussion of online security control for middle school, high school laptops on and off campus. So I had put this on here because of the fact that I had spoken with some parents and found out that they're specifically what somebody had spoken of this evening, what Andrea had spoken of was the Google Hangout thing. So my own personal experience with this, I can share as a board member because I'll share it as a parent's perspective because my son's in middle school right now. So Aiden's in 7th grade. This was his first year of getting one of these Google Chrome the Chrome laptop things, Chromebooks. So he's had it now for all these months, and we don't have internet access at our house. So he has to use one of our phones, the hotspot, to get on, which that's just our own family rules and stuff. He has to get on via that because we don't want him online whenever he wants to be right now. We don't feel like that's appropriate for him yet. So he has no access to his Chromebook at home unless we give him a hotspot. So I really never thought there was much of a problem at all. So I had talked to some parents, and then all of a sudden I found out there's this Google Hangout on the Chromebooks. When I got home that night, I asked him, I said, so do you have Google Hangout? And like instantly his face gets very red and stuff. So he knew like I was gonna be asking, because he knows the next rule is that mom and dad get to look at anything that he has. So he opened it up for me and I looked at it and stuff, and you know, very non-threatening, casual conversations and stuff for him going back and forth with multiple students, and I'm instantly thinking like, how the heck is he talking to these people, because he doesn't have internet access well, he was doing it all during the school day. So to me, that's a worry for me as a parent. I don't like the fact that he's communicating with other students in other classrooms all across school during this. So I asked him in follow-up over the last couple days, just because I keep thinking about it. So he's my little test subject on stuff. So for this,
Poor kid.
yeah, I know. He feels that way too because mom found out some other stuff on there. So he was. So he's got a friend. So what I asked him was, how long have you had this? And he says, well, ever since I got a Google account. And I said, so when did you start talking to other kids in the classroom? Well, all the way back to elementary school. In computer class, he said, I can talk to other elementary school kids and stuff. And I said, your teachers allow that? He said, well, no, I don't know. We never asked and stuff. But just think of it as a modern way of passing notes. So that's what it is. The only thing that bothers me the most is the fact that, as Andrea was stating this evening, is just the potential for some craziness to occur on this. And, you know, she gave the example of that this evening. I asked Aiden, you know, does he have access to the video chats and stuff? And he's like, I didn't even know that. And I saw it has a little video pop up right there on that and stuff. But no kidding, you know, he's been communicating with lots of kids during the school day and stuff. So
do we know, I made a note when she was talking.
sorry.
Can I get
Yeah, we'll let Carolyn finish, and then go ahead.
No, I was just curious, like, do we know how much teachers use this thing? Like, we kind of were talking about it way back when, like, is it something that teachers use a lot?
I can tell you.
Is there
that-
alternatives? Cause I mean, I kinda sit there and go,
Yeah,
I mean, my instinct is kinda similar, where it's like, we talked about it at length, but if we're not really seeing a lot of positives to offset the negatives, it just seems kinda obvious to me.
So I can tell you, we do have fifth grade GT, at least, that uses this between buildings. So they have projects, they'll collaborate, and they will use the video for that.
Now, could they Skype or do something other than that? I mean, if that, take that away, give them something else that's controlled?
I'm not, actually, I would say, kind of like we've had discussions before, you're actually probably losing more control by going with something else. So for example, with using Google Hangout, we've talked before, all of that is logged, and the video chat's a little harder to log, but we actually see the activity there at least. Whereas if you do block that, which we can, I mean, it's a couple clicks and you know what, the problem goes away from me and I don't have to hear it anymore. But I'm not sure that's really in our best interest, because the fact that we do lose all that ability to see what our kids are doing. Not only that, we've mentioned before, we can block chat, Google Hangouts. There's nothing for a kid to open a Google Doc. And I invite Rob, and I invite John, and I invite Lori to that. Well, now we're all chatting in that doc, which is something a tool we use in every class. So.
And Zoom isn't accessible for the G&T programs to be able to, as a free spot.
It possibly could be. I mean, there are other options out there for sure. I will say, if we block this, there's no doubt in my mind, we could find other tools to use. But again, we lose that visibility.
So are we seeing everything and doing a lot of things when we see it?
yeah, how much is Michael Merritt getting timeouts or whatever it's called, penalty box?
That's really that's a question for Mike. I don't know. I will say, just a quick response to that. Our students don't automatically get put into the penalty box. That's something that Mike decides. So that's a one decision.
I was just curious how many.
So he has to monitor them himself and put it in the penalty box?
He gets a thing that he can't look at daily and see what's going on there.
So,
If we have, as I'm listening, I hear that we could use something else for whatever communication we need. I'm not hearing any great pluses why we need to have Google Hangout.
Well, they're gonna find a different way, is kind of what you're saying, probably.
And that's what I said, we do lose that visibility. Now again.
We lose a little bit. Remember, one of the things we're talking about is parents having visibility, because we're dealing with kids of a younger age, definitely under 18.
Well, we could try it for a while, see if it works. If it doesn't,
If we stop
figure out
and do
something
it,
else.
I mean, if we have to come back, we have to come back, but
So
I don't see where the pluses are. Why?
Well, I mean, just from a legal perspective and stuff, I mean, if some kid sends another kid pornography on this thing, and now it's in the school's cloud, what's our legal ramifications for having?
And I'm sure we would have some legal issues there. We would if they sent it using some other technology as well.
so if it's, and I'm not a technology person, so we have these pictures and these videos that are inappropriate, and they go through at 9 a.m. Michael Merritt, like, will it be that day that, like, is he getting a big old sheet of everything?
It's just a
and-
page he goes to, and then he can see if it's flagged.
So
Like
he
too much-
really does have.
Too much skin or that sort of thing, sure.
The point is, if something goes on one of these things at 9:02, 4 million students have seen it by 9:03, and Mike doesn't have any time till maybe 3 in the afternoon. It's out there, it's been seen. It's not that it can't be taken down, it's like it can't get out. Maybe.
Ray,
That's just one way I look
does
at it.
middle school have Snapchat, and can they get on and watch videos?
So.
I mean, I know the high school does.
If you go, that's not entirely right though either. If you go to the Snapchat site, you can see what's posted, but you can't actually do anything with it. So you have to be posting with your phone if you wanna Snapchat. So while they may be able to go there, they can't do anything besides see what other people are posting.
Can they
with their
watch
phone.
YouTube videos?
YouTube is not blocked. We use that often as a tool.
They can block certain YouTube videos.
Sure.
Go Guardian, that say I'm a teacher, I've had concerns or whatever, my sixth grade class is immature, I just don't think they can handle it. I can set up, like I could put parameters where they can only access these 8 websites during this research or whatever, right? I mean, you can, on a classroom level, you can really lock that down, right?
What do they do, email you then and say, I want these students logged down to only these sites? I mean, how does that work?
They actually have the ability to do that themselves.
Oh, they can do it themselves?
I mean, I really feel like Andrea had mentioned the fact that we've given the kids a tool, which is wonderful. That's great, that we're moving the kids forward, our district forward, but we've given them a tool that they might not be mature enough to handle yet. And if they've not had education in regards to internet safety, and I know that can't be just on the school district, it's gotta be parent responsibility as well, to be able to instruct their kids on, hey, like she had said, this is gonna be out there forever. And you know, an unkind word can be something huge in another
Will you
kid's
talk about
life.
the digital citizenship
I
and
can talk to
onboarding a
you
little
guys.
bit, because I know,
Not to interrupt you, but
yeah.
No, go ahead, sorry.
I did talk about that at probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 board meetings ago at least. We actually do talk about that at the elementary level. Our elementary librarians cover that, they do a great job of that. They talk about the digital footprint, they talk about ethics online, and that starts in the elementary before they ever get to the middle school.
Do we do it?
There's required boot, isn't there a required boot camp too for that?
At
You've
the middle
had,
school, we do have a required boot camp as well.
What is in the boot camp? Like, is it a video that they just watch and
No,
follow
it's lessons the middle school teachers go through with them.
at the beginning of the year?
And they're working through it now too.
Developed yet to understand time.
Well, I guess, I kind of jumping in here, but we talked about a lot of this, we all had
We have.
concerns, we gave it a try. I'm kind of feeling like, I know this isn't a decision thing, but go the other extreme, see what happens, and we'll probably find some middle ground in between.
well,
We kind of
we've
anticipate.
had quite a bit of
like-
conversation administratively, and I said, you know, I wasn't necessarily sold that the value of
Yeah,
Google Hangouts
Yeah,
weighs
I'm not
equally
sold
with
on that.
right,
and I think,
No.
in particular, I mean, the concern that parents have. So, I mean, I think it's something we'll revisit administratively for sure, because, as Ray said a little bit ago, it would be easier for him
Much easier.
to block it,
yeah.
but,
Like I said, I'm done and I don't hear this conversation.
you know, I like, administratively, it's nice to avoid self-inflicted wounds when you can.
Right.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, it's an experiment, when we all talked about it, we all knew what could happen. We had advantages and disadvantages. You know, now we're starting to see, maybe we'll try it the other way, maybe that's too extreme that way, and then you find something
Find a happy
I know-
medium
what- so
I
somewhere.
what
know
can
maybe
we
you
get?
can catch things, you know, on there, like,
We have.
hey, we can catch some things, but that's the good side of it, but at the bad side of it, that some kid
I
can just
personally
be.
was concerned that you got Mike O'Mara having to look through all these things when he's
Right.
busy
I'm not sure that needs
already.
to be his job
I
already.
mean, that's a lot of
Even if
stuff.
one kid just gets bullied or
Yeah.
sexually harassed, whatever it is on there, that just
Yeah,
bothers
I-
me.
I
I have a
think
real
that's a
problem
lot of-
that we're providing the tool for this to happen. I think if you looked at it as a physical standpoint, if we allowed a student that is physically bullying somebody to remain in school, I mean, that's essentially kind of what we're doing from a
So
technology standpoint.
would the takeaway be that the administration talks about it more?
Yeah,
And because it's not really,
yeah.
he can do whatever, you know, he'll turn on, he'll turn
Well,
off.
but certainly, you know, it's an issue the board's concerned with too, so,
Yeah.
so that's something I
For the
think we need to go and talk again. It's an action, I don't think we have to be directed by the board, you know, to do it, but I think it's more, we do need to let the board know what we're doing on that case.
So you know how we feel.
Yeah, I think the
I
concerns are
think-
coming through loud and clear.
Can we
Alright.
have that done by the next board
We
meeting, like
can.
something
Yeah.
put
We'll-
together?
yeah,
While we're
we'll-
meeting.
Sometimes
Yeah,
you
We
gotta-
meet
we'll-
tomorrow, don't we,
I'm
Ray?
just sorry to keep that.
Yeah.
We do have an IT committee tomorrow morning too, yeah.
Okay, keep moving here. We'll move on. 2020 summer and 2021 school year childcare rates, as they are, which are staying the same this past year. So,
I'm looking,
Wait.
I don't know if your cover page got updated with, it's right on the agenda. Does your cover page have the wrong years on it like mine?
Have what on it?
no,
Wrong years?
2020 summer.
Summer of 2020.
Okay, yeah, okay, yep. Yeah, you said it correctly, I just had it.
Okay.
So we're not increasing, is that what we're, We're
staying
gonna
the
stay
same.
the same.
That makes it easy. I move we approve the childcare rate.
Second
Okay.
that.
Motion made by Ken, seconded by Ben. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
He gets to sit through the whole board meeting, is that right?
Monthly
I know, I was like.
You know now,
Kim is here for any questions.
No, I
I know, I was about to say, does Kim have anything to put into this before we voted it?
No, I just provided a little bit of history for those new board members that kind of, we have typically done like a 2 years before we would increase.
And how are we competitively? I know you look at that. For a while there, we may be a little bit higher, wasn't it? Or
Yeah, we're still on the high
As you
end
say.
of childcare rates in Indianola.
Moving on to monthly financial report.
If you look at September, you can see where we are and where we compare to from September of 19 to September of 18 on the balance sheet.
Do you have any concerns?
Nope, not right now.
okay.
Each month I'll tell you.
I mean, I know we talk about timing
Knew that was
things
coming.
sometimes, Jonna, but you know, this year our expenditures are up, our revenues are down, our ending balance is lower than last year, but, you know, but still comfortable, no concerns that that's a trend or.
And we came out good on the bond, so,
And that's a different fund typically.
Yeah.
That's our debt service
Service.
and our, capital, sales tax stuff, that saves us money there. And this is typically when we look at, general fund, because that's our biggest fund and the most things come out of that fund. So when you look at the first financial is the balance sheet, the second one is comparison what our budget is and where we are percentage-wise. We're a little bit up if you look at the total, different areas, are higher than others. Just for broad, understanding the instruction piece on the comparison, that's mainly our teachers, mainly our, all the instruction piece of, anything involved with instruction. The support services would be our counselors, our principals, our, a lot of the at-risk pieces is not typically instruction, it's support of the instruction. Non-instruction is our child care program and our food service. And the other is bonds and our AEA flow-through that we service, get service from the AEA on that. So that's the basic tenet of that. And as we go through different retreats or workshops, I hope to share more information specifically with the finance stuff. And then we just try to compare our cash flow, and you can see that it is down a little bit from the year before. Some of that is timing of, as Art said, of when things are expended and when we receive revenue. So we kind of watch this, and we are in a very good position right now financially with our unspent balance as well, our solvency as well as our budget balance. So.
Motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the, financial report.
Second.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion to approve by Lori, seconded by Carolyn. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-0. Okay, next board.
Got the facilities
Facilities
projects update, yep. I know that Bernie was just doing a walkthrough today with Shive Hattery, kind of our final pre-warranty expiration for this building. I don't know if there were a lot of new items on that, John, there were there?
A handful still that they'll take care of, that are identified.
We have not heard anything new on that first one since we had a call with the EMC lawyer at least a couple weeks ago now.
And he told us it would be a couple months probably. And at this point, we're identifying it as we've paid them out. We're done, we'll move on.
So basically just they fight it out.
Ray, anything on that, just because I was not in that meeting, but the high school security cameras, anything to report on that? The board might be
Nothing
interested
other
in.
than we have a proposal to look at a little more in depth
And what are we
For
doing
more
with those?
cam-
What are we doing?
for cameras at the high school.
More?
Interior cameras.
Oh,
And where are they going?
The proposal is actually to cover the whole building.
Oh, really?
It's broken into
Well, so we go over tomorrow then?
Oh, I figured we'd discuss that at cabinet first and kind of go over the proposal. On that.
And the thought is, I think at some point too, middle school as well has interest, and I'll just, it would be rare to not have interior cameras in middle schools and high schools. I was a little surprised when I came here. We did focus on improving our exterior cameras, which were bad, and we're in a pretty good place now with them at the high school.
What's that run to fit the high school, just curiosity?
I believe it was around the 80,000 plus, 85, yeah.
Do you do the whole school?
They've gotten a lot cheaper. Cameras have gotten cheaper and better. And that's the nice thing about technology and electronics. So
Ballpark, but as I recall, it was around that.
Next board agenda.
yeah, like usual, it's pretty bare bones. We'll have our committee things and then things that come up. So this definitely can change, but this gives you an idea of the working agenda.
And board calendar.
Art, we're gonna have to move, I talked to Ben, policy meeting, we could move that to the following week.
Okay.
I'm out of town, I'll be Canada for a week.
Fishing?
Hope not. Grandchildren.
The only problem, we probably won't want to put it at 7 in the morning though, just a week later, because then we run into the HR.
Or sometime in that following week.
But, yeah, it doesn't matter to me when we have it. So you're talking about the week of the 10th, the week of the 10th?
Yeah.
How do you guys, are we always locked into Tuesday, Thursday? I know that's where we fell. Does it matter to you guys?
Monday doesn't work for me.
We can be flexible, just
Yeah, that week.
more importantly, 7 a.m.
And we have HR on the 10th?
Yeah, HR is, I'm good. How about either the 9th or the 11th?
11.
11th, 7 a.m., okay, that's no problem at all. And it's actually, I don't know if you've looked at them yet, but it's a pretty easy set of policies, not a lot of changes.
Did you say we have a lot to get through yet? Is there a lot of policies to go?
Oh, well, that's
Is that just kind of never
that does
ending
never
thing?
end. We just, we're
Just goes through a
constantly.
It just
cycle.
keeps going through a
Yeah.
cycle.
Policies to be reviewed annually.
What date did you say, the 11th or
The 11th, we're gonna change that December 3rd to December 11th,
at 7 a.m.?
7 a.m., yeah.
And then I see that the board curriculum committee meeting time is reverted back to 7 p.m.
Is that gonna work for you?
I can make it work, I just didn't know if that's something that your group was wanting.
Morning,
Yeah,
who's on it?
it was,
Who's
that was
on it?
a theme that we heard a lot.
And who?
Yeah.
I mean, if-
That is real, as long as my husband.
I mean, 7
Probably
not
should
work for
tell
you?
them that.
Yeah. Does that not work for you?
Does that not work for you? I
I
mean,
had not heard of it until I saw it here, so I'm just trying to.
well, we moved because Carrie Ann had to have school, she was at school or
You just
something.
add that, John, onto the,
Does 7 work
I
for you?
did too, so it's on my calendar
Are you
twice
sure?
now. I put it on there
I
too.
mean, if it doesn't, we could always, I just can't be done till 5 or 5:30, so, and that's
Sorry
really
for
late.
infringing on your board secretary role. I will delete mine.
I mean, we can change it if we decide we can't work for it, so. I don't look real good in the morning at 7 o'clock, but I'm here.
Workshop retreat dates.
Yeah, I think it would be a great time, as we've already talked, different ideas you have, and then looking forward to, to this spring. There's a needs assessment that I want to do, that we really need to do for some of the categorical funding we get, that IASB helps with, that could also inform strategic planning, but I really want to talk with the board here about how you see strategic planning playing out and what you want to do with that, in addition to the other, other kinds of things you brought up today. So I'd love to get a board work session in, the next month for sure.
Are we gonna do any, like we went down to, where'd we go? Sheraton?
Yeah, I have some dates on
Are we
that as
doing
well,
that?
and I would, if you're available, it'd be great.
Do you have,
I do, I have the dates and places. The first one of the closer ones, unfortunately, is January 16th. That's in Ames, but that's also the chamber dinner here in town, which I know I will be involved with, and some board members might wish to go to. So,
What's their outage?
so the other two that make sense at all geographically are Thursday, January 23rd at Carroll, or Wednesday, February 5th at Sheraton. And what Lori's talking about, these are, they have you in, there's a meal at 5:30, then they have a workshop kind of on governance, board roles, you get to interact with the board members.
It was fun, I learned a lot.
Sometimes they'll give you a, like a scenario, you know, what would you do, and you discuss it with board members from other cities. It's, you know, it's a pretty good experience, particularly for newer board members, but for anybody.
I learned a lot, I thought it was kind of fun, I mean, we just
Yeah.
rode together down and I learned a lot.
So the 16th's out for me, but the 23rd or the 5th, the 5th's my wife's birthday, but she'll be forgiving if I'm on, so.
She can come.
Yeah, we'll take her with us.
I'll tell you right now what her answer will
She
be.
might have some choice words for you, Ken.
He's like, I'll choose my
She'll
birthday by
excuse me,
myself.
but getting her to go would be another matter.
The 23rd or the 5th, I don't care.
So I can get, anybody wants to go, I can get registered. If you want to decide that tonight, let me know, or if
How
you want to
far
go
is
home.
I need to look at a calendar.
Look at your calendar and email me the next couple
Yeah,
days.
tonight,
It's
yeah.
well over an hour.
Everybody had the date.
Carol's an hour away.
I have,
It's more than these, probably an hour
Sure.
and a half.
Cheryl's more than an hour.
Sheraton's a little
Sure.
closer.
It's a half hour.
Yeah, that was,
Sure, it's a half hour.
that was a quick trip, we did, yeah.
Yeah, we drive it in.
I drive fast, so if you wanna ride with me, we're going
Will
fast.
you all check your calendars and let me know the next couple days, and I'll get us registered whenever you want to go? Okay.
And we'll have an
So-
update
Yeah.
on additional discipline reporting categories.
Yeah, and let's go back to your, let's try to get maybe get a workshop or a work session date on the calendar tonight if we can too.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. And
What
then,
day do you want it on? Stay on Monday?
you know, we have done that for ease of scheduling, try to make it predictable for board members, but I personally don't care.
December's kind of tough for that, because if we go the 16th, we go a week later.
Yeah,
That's taking us the
Yeah.
Monday of Christmas week.
yeah.
What about the 9th?
December. It's fine by me.
Anybody got anything going on? I
Is
mean,
it all day? What is it?
No,
No, it's just at
usually-
night.
It's evening.
Yeah.
December 9th, is that a?
It's a Monday.
It's a Monday, it's like 5:30, we used to do it at 5:30 to what, 6:30, 7?
It's at night.
I'm better at 6 that day.
You're what?
On
I
the
don't
ninth.
think
I can make 5:30, but I can make 6.
You know, what we've done in the past, and it doesn't have to be this way all the time, I can tell you how it's kind of timed out in the past. We've come in at 5:30, or we come in at 6. We've had just kind of like a sack lunch provided by food service. And then we've gotten, typically it's gone about 2 to 2.5 hours. I mean, we'll have no problem filling a 6 to 8 or 6 to 8:30 if you want to do it that night.
The 8th,
The 9th
the 9th.
is what somebody said, but
The 9th.
I don't care. Again, it needs to work for the board. I'll be there.
That works for me.
Yeah, it works for me.
Works for me.
6 p.m. the 9th, work session. We'll post that as a work session. We have,
just gonna
before
do
we
it
had
here.
this building, we did it in the middle school conference room, but I think we can probably find space within here and do it here.
So here,
You try to say it's gonna be this much time, because otherwise you could go on and on and on, don't you usually say
Yeah,
that?
yeah, we do. I mean,
I think we were just 2 hours and we were out of there.
yeah, we can put it 6 to 8, because we can also eat as we work, you know. Are you gonna put that on the calendar, Jonna?
6 to 8.
Not till you do.
Yeah, right.
And then the
It hasn't
update
shown
on
up in line
the
yet.
additional discipline reporting categories.
Yeah, just an update for you. We have added 3 categories. Okay, we met again administratively after the last time we talked. We went back through policy 104 again and talked through the definitions, talked about what would fit what definition and what categories we wanted to add. We added categories that are consistent with that policy and with Iowa code. So we now have in the drop-down menu, discipline menu, sexual harassment, sexual assault/abuse,
Hold on, sexual harassment and sexual abuse,
sexual assault/abuse.
sorry.
No, it's fine. And then sexual exploitation. And again, those are out of, those definitions are in the code. I'd encourage you, if you want to really get this ingrained, go read policy 104, board policy 104.
Wait, or just 104?
104, yep. And there are some different exhibits and things with it, but that policy goes through all the definitions. And thank you to Ray
Thank
for
you very
getting
much
the,
for doing that.
Thank
getting
you.
the,
Thanks, Ray.
you know, it's, my job's easy sometimes. I say, hey, add these, and then Ray does his technology magic, and they're there. So,
Thank
Now,
you
is
very
there-
much.
Is there any bit of education that has to go on between those definitions and our people that are recording that?
yeah, we have begun that process already in our administrative meetings. That's our principals, assistant principals, are the ones who are recording
Do the
that.
recording.
Because, yeah, it's in our best interest. We want consistency.
Right.
Well, thank you,
Data.
thank you.
And if somebody's ever, like, if two things happen, do we just choose the best one to go in, or are we able to choose multiple, like, this kid experienced sexual harassment plus was punched in the eye or something?
Well, I suppose you could do multiple entries. My thought would be if it had
Or do we have a
a
notes
sexual
section?
aspect to it, that would be what was
standard.
selected, but.
I think they typically do the most egregious, and then leave notes regarding the
So whichever one was the worst?
There'd be a notes
Yes.
section.
Yeah.
that
There is a
they
notes
never-
section, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Not necessarily that we report to the board, because we're just doing an analysis of the different categories.
Okay.
Thank you though for
Thank
doing
you.
that.
All right, so we have December 9th
Move to
down.
adjourn.
Work
Hold
session.
on, he's, you know, go, he's ready to get out of here.
All right.
Did you go to?
Motion made by Ken,
Second.
Take it with me.
seconded by Lori. All those in favor say
You're
aye.
just ready to go,
Aye.
man.
Any opposed?
Oh, okay.
Well, you'll stay here till 9, you like to talk.
Remember, get
I
back to
do.
me on the
I do
regional
like
workshop,
to-
please.
I do like to talk,
Do
man.
you think you need to go? Because I know you kind of.
I don't have to.
Yes.
I